Hi, welcome back, guys. I finally decided, I think, which route I'm going to take for my video, or at least this series of videos. I want to leave a history, kind of my life and my family for my kids, because I've not really been around my family, and there's been reasons why, and I think I owe it to my children to know some things. When I was little, my parents both worked, so I was what they would call a latchkey kid. My sister and I had our keys around our neck. We would ride home from the bus, and my mom and dad would be there shortly after when they got off work. So we went in and we had our snack and watched the Fuzzy Flintstones. That's prior cable to where they were really just Fuzzy Flintstones. And that's how we lived our life. You know, we ran outside, we played, we made forts, we had animals. There, we got to watch limited TV. Saturday morning was the best because we had our cereal, our jammies, and our fuzzy cartoon. So you had our typical aunts and uncles and cousins, and we were all around each other, and friends, and you know, you'd go to school all week to see your friends, and then the weekend would come, you would spend time with your family. Most of the time, birthdays meant after-school parties, for pool parties or skating parties or whatever. And then you would have your slumber parties. That was very exciting because we didn't go anywhere. We didn't really talk to our friends when we were little. When I was younger, before 7, 8 years old, well, about 7, 8 years old, we lived in the country in a rural area. And we had a party line phone. Now, for those of you who don't know what party line is, we had one line for the telephones. Our neighbors would have 2 short rings, and we would have 1 long ring, so that way we knew which family or which household was to pick up. My grandparents were dairy farmers. They owned a dairy farm and sold milk. That was on my dad's side. They weren't really warm people. My mom and my grandmother did not like each other, so they weren't really around each other. I, on the other hand, adored my father. I looked like my father. I would try to be the son that he wanted, I think. I would learn how to draw out blueprints for houses. I would know what almost every tool was. I would help him do things outside. Loved my dad. Wanted to do everything with him. My mom and I had more of a strained relationship. I don't think she knew how to deal with me, and my sister and my mom were close. One day, I mean, going through life, you'd hear your parents fight, or you'd see them do this and see them do that. And you never really think that things are going to change for you. One day we came home, I was about 9, and there was a camper trailer in my yard. And I was just basically told, your dad's moving out. No, I'm sorry, no, nothing like this. And I was very confused because that was my dad. You know, what do you mean my dad's going to go somewhere? At that point, my entire world was going to change, and change in a big way. And it wasn't going to be nice, and it wasn't going to be fun. But anyway, so that became our new life. It became my sister, my mom, and I, and my dad's new girlfriend really didn't have time for us. I think she wanted to pretend that we weren't there. So my mom had this brilliant idea to move to the city. Boy, I think if she would have known what was to come, that would have been a decision she wouldn't have made. So here I went. I had my dog, who was my best friend. She couldn't go. So we had to leave her with my aunt. My dad wasn't going to go because his life was not with us now. We'd go down and visit him, but it was like, don't touch this, don't touch that. You know, the lady of the house did not really want us there. So I think he did it more because it was an obligation that he felt that he should have to do that. So the next thing I remember is just having all our furniture and everything at my aunt's house, and it was time to have a yard sale. And I was saying, ooh, a new adventure, but my dad's gone. Now all my stuff is slowly disappearing. We ended up moving to a very ugly, very vicious city, and I had to learn quickly that things were not going to be fun. My mom had to work, so my sister and I were left there, and we all of a sudden had this roommate who had older kids who didn't come around at first, but they would show themselves intermittently, and they were all of a sudden entwined in our lives. My mom started doing speed. I think she was a good mom. I think she made some poor choices, but we started to see things. We still had our latchkey, but where we were at down there, it just wasn't going to be good. And through this and going through all this, I think the one thing that made my life worse was when my dad decided all of a sudden he didn't want to be a part of our lives. It was like one minute that's your whole world, and the next minute they're going, I don't even really know who you are. So I think I'm going to leave it at where we moved and just kind of discuss a little bit of the feelings I have about losing a parent. And I'm a really big daddy advocate, because when my dad left, it created such a void for me. I went from daddy's little girl to just nobody and nothing. I was with a mom and a sister who didn't understand me. They didn't. I think my sister blamed me because my mom gave in to me, but my mom gave in to me because I was a very obnoxious child. I was one who I wanted it my way, wanted it now. I didn't want to hear excuses. And when my dad was no longer there to kind of buffer that, I think it was easier for her to just give me what I wanted, just keep me quiet. She loved me, but she just wasn't like a very affectionate mom in that way with me. And I think it's because I was more of a non-affectionate child, I guess. I don't know. Moms have to understand, and dads have to understand, that kids really do, I think, need both parents. Do I know that it's difficult to remember that when you're so ticked off at the other person, when you've been so hurt by that other person? Sometimes it's easier to hurt them with the kids. That's really, really not fair. And I know a lot of the people around I've seen do that. My kids' dads have always took off from them, except for my youngest children's dad. And I'm not going to say that that was all their fault. I think I'm a very hard woman to love, and I'm very... my mom taught me that never let a man have the upper hand. Be your own woman. And I think she said that so much to the point where men, to me, became a tool. If they didn't do things the way I wanted to, then they were wrong. And through much of my childhood, I would hit people, or I would beat up people, or I would mentally abuse people. And I don't think my mom knew how to stop that. And I don't think that she knew, by saying all the things that she did about how men will use you, they will hurt you, whatever. I took all of that, and I took my father's actions, and I had this mindset that men would only hurt you. Men would only walk out. And they're not. I was more evil to the men I was with, because my mom taught me that a man will hurt you, a man will leave you, a man will take everything of your life and walk out the door. Not all men are that way. And I think a lot of our actions or reactions to things in life are what our parents have told us before. I know that my father was not a very nice man to my mother, and I know that they both made mistakes. But what they didn't realize was that by being the way they were and how they ended up dealing with their divorces really affected my sister and I. And so then I was one that I didn't really get along with anybody in my family except for a handful of cousins. And we moved I lost everything. I lost my dad, I lost my home, I lost my school friends, people I went to school with from kindergarten on. I lost everything. And so that created this hate for people because people were evil. People left, and that's what they did. And I've come to realize now that people aren't as evil as I was taught. The people in my life did bad things. But not all people are bad people. I know, it's very confusing. And so going through all of this, and we'll leave that at that, going through all this, I guess my message is going to be, people are going to break up, they're going to leave. Leave the kids out of it. If you feel like you can't let your kids go see your husband because you're afraid that he's not going to take care of them, get a mediator. Get somebody in there that can sit with him, with the kids. Go to court, get everything on paper. You know, protect your kids, protect yourself. But do not keep them from their dad. If their dad is with a woman and you're mad because he is, as long as the woman treats your kids okay, there shouldn't be a problem with that. There should not be a problem. And your kids are going to tell you if there's a problem. If you're a man that has failed his family, or maybe you're a dad whose wife walked out and you're the single dad with a kid or whatever, I don't think your mothers of your children should jump in and say, well, I don't want that woman around them. Well, you know what? Kids are kids, and they're going to need everybody that loves them to love them. Don't rob your kids of a parent because you want to be petty. One of the things that I've had to struggle with is, am I doing the right thing with my kids and by my kids? I don't know. I got 2 of them right now who don't really care if they talk to me or not. I've got one that the more somebody hurts them, the more they go to them. I don't know. I don't know if I've done anything right, if I've done nothing right, if I've done a little bit right. I would like to think that somehow I've learned a few things. Every situation is different, so not everybody could read the same black and white and go, oh, that fits me perfectly. That's not going to happen. You have women who abuse men, you have men who abuse women, you have people that abuse children. Everybody needs to be watched, and every scenario needs to be followed closely. But don't let your pettiness get in the way of a child loving the other parent. They need them. I needed my dad, and he walked away. And that has affected me from ground zero. To this day, he lives no more than an hour and 30 minutes away, and he knows nothing. He chooses to walk out of our lives and not be there. He chooses to make me unworthy of him. And that has had very dire consequences. So please love your children. And children, love your parents. I don't mean you have to put up with all their flaws. But just remember, one day you can wake up and they can all be gone. And I don't mean to end this on like a very sad note or anything. I think sometimes I get too down into things. But I think I'm going to leave that here, and we'll pick up next time on where I left off. Thanks for coming and hanging out with me. I think this is going to be good for me. You guys have a good day. Bye.